These are the 5 things that will typically happen when no contact with an avoidant goes longer than they expected. The first is that their sense of control starts to slip. At first, an avoidant assumes that you are always going to reach out. And the reason why this is the case is because that's what has been happening up until this point. You know deep down, if you left it up to this avoidant, they are probably never going to reach out to you because that's going to directly go against what this avoidant attachment style wants, which is for them to have control and to make sure that they're not going to have to feel or express unwanted emotions. And by them reaching out to you, there is a really good chance that they are going to feel those emotions, right? So they're trying to do everything that they possibly can to not have that happen. And they're hoping that you are going to be the one, which you have been, because again, you're trying to do everything that you possibly can to try to make this relationship work. And that means you being the one to usually break no contact. But when you don't, they start to feel uneasy because this is something that is completely out of their window of expectations, right? They expect that there's a certain window in time for when you are going to reach out to them, even if it's a soft reach out, right? They're wanting some kind of indication that you simply are not moving on. And when you don't do this, they have no idea as to what is going on. Because if you're doing no contact correctly, not only are you blocking them to make sure that they're not being able to make calls to you or text, but you're also blocking them on all of your social media so that you can make sure that there's no way for them to really see what's happening. And you're doing this hopefully for yourself to make sure that you're separated away from them in the relationship. So naturally, they're going to start to wonder what is going on. Is this a different attempt for you trying to get them to break no contact? Or are you simply just moving on? And that's the last thing that an avoidant wants to happen, because deep down, they do want to be in a relationship with you. It's just due to this avoidant attachment style, it's causing them to not allow themselves to feel those emotions and to express them and to show up in the relationship the way that you know that they can if they didn't allow this attachment style to take over. But essentially, your silence breaks the pattern that they counted on. The second thing is that they start to doubt their decision. They essentially, when they first pull away from you, believe that they're in the right. They believe that you are just being too needy and you're not listening to their wants and needs. So they feel justified for pulling away on top of whatever else excuse that they're making as far as why it is a necessity for them to pull away from you in this moment. But when this happens, when you're going no contact and you've done it longer than they expect, that no longer works. They can no longer rely on those excuses anymore because that's just not the case. And no matter what they're doing and they're telling themselves in this moment, they're constantly being reminded and replaying in their head all the different things in ways that you showed up in the relationship. And this avoidant attachment style was the one that was causing them to pull away from you in those moments, rather than for them to lean in and to actually want to express emotions or work on things, whatever that might be. But in this moment, they're starting to realize all of that, and they're starting to see things for what they are, because that veil and that filter that they've been using to make themselves feel as though this is the right way that they need to be starts to be lifted, and they're seeing how this attachment style has really run amok on you guys' relationship and how it's not beneficial for a healthy relationship in the long run. And the more that time passes, the more that they start to second guess themselves, and they start to really challenge this attachment style with their own feelings and their own beliefs, which tends to be shoved down because they have adopted this way of being due to their caregivers not meeting their emotional well-being when they were younger. So of course they're going to latch onto this, and it doesn't allow them to grow and to find what love means for them and how they want to express it. All these different things that you've gotten glimpses of, they essentially are always pushing that down due to this avoidant attachment style, and you've probably experienced it in so many different ways. But again, in this moment, they're starting to realize things for what they are, and it's causing them to have self-doubt as to the legitimacy of all of those excuses that they were using as to why they were justified for pulling away from you. Which segues perfectly into the third thing, and that is anxiety starts to surface beneath their calm exterior. They may look on the outside as if everything is fine, they're put together and they're not bothered, but deep down they're having anxiety throughout the day. Whenever, especially they're alone, thinking about losing you completely, because as I mentioned, an avoidant doesn't want to lose you outright, right? They just feel that they're either overwhelmed because they don't want to work on things, because the conflict causes them to have to feel some unwanted emotions, or whatever it is that's causing them to feel like they need to pull away from you. That's really what's kind of controlling their decision making and how they're showing up in the relationship. But when they have that space away from you for an extended amount of time, they're starting to realize all the good things that the both of you had, how much you showed up in the relationship, how much you showed up in their own life and try to help them grow. And this is all happening within them. And they're starting to realize a lot of these things all at once, and it's hitting them. And that's why it may seem like they're doing more extravagant things, maybe going out and hanging with more people, doing a lot more things to just try to distract themselves, because that's what they're used to doing and how to handle these moments. But it's not going to work in the long run. They're going to have to face this at some point in time, but they're going to try to, on the surface level at least, make it seem as though they're unbothered, because again, they want to put off this perception that they are completely in control and there's nothing that's going on. But as I mentioned, this is a complete facade, and they are really starting to feel the effects of you not being in their life. The fourth thing is that they begin to compare you to others. As I mentioned, avoidants are typically going to ramp up the distractions, which means they're going to try to go out and maybe find another partner or meet new people, maybe even get into a rebound relationship. And the reason why they'll make a drastic decision like that is because they, again, are trying to distract themselves from all of these emotions that are going on, right? Because it's a lot. It's a lot that's coming up all at once, because they are suppressing this down essentially. Whenever this avoidant attachment style comes up, it causes them to want to push away, and they're trying to do whatever that they can to not feel those emotions, because that is a vulnerability to them and they don't want to have that happen. So of course, this is going to be something that's going to kind of break that dam, and they are being flooded with all of these different emotions and realizations. So they're trying to do everything that they possibly can to meet new people, to distract themselves from that realizations. But what ends up happening, where they don't usually realize, is that they're starting to compare everything that you did in their life to that person, and they're trying to recreate that same environment and feeling, because that's what they long for. There's a high chance that you were the perfect partner for them, and they did value both you and the relationship in their life. But again, there were certain things that caused them to feel like they needed to pull away or push away from you, because they wanted to avoid the feelings or the situation that's coming up, whatever that might be. And while they might find people that have somewhat the same qualities you had, they are not going to be able to perfectly replicate you. And that's something that they're going to realize at some point in time, and it's going to cause them to essentially start to spiral even more, because they're realizing the real magnitude of losing you, that you might not be available at all to them, and they're losing out on someone that they do genuinely love and want to be in a relationship with due to this avoidant attachment style. Which leads us to the fifth and final thing that typically happens, and that is regret starts to quietly take over. They begin to really regret their decisions of pulling away from you and not attempting to try to work on this relationship, because I know that there was probably so many times and chances that you gave them to just try to make some little progress into working on this. You weren't expecting them to change overnight. You were willing to work with them, but they just simply could not do that when you were in the relationship. So they're starting to see that, and they're starting to realize the chances and opportunities that they had, and they just took it for granted, and they allowed for you to walk away, which that's something that is devastating to them, because they do, again, want you in their life, but they just simply were not able to show up the way that you needed them and how you needed them to contribute to the relationship, because of their unwillingness to work on this attachment style. Which we can give them some empathy, because it's very hard to work on things in the moment. You tend to need a step back from whatever it is to actually begin to prioritize yourself and get the necessary help, whether that's a therapist, a counselor, whatever you need to work on these things to actually make some type of progress. But again, at the end of the day, you were trying to do everything that you could to get them to just work on it little by little, and they just couldn't do that. And the thing that tends to be frustrating is that even though they're regretting how they've handled it and not reaching out to you, it doesn't guarantee that they're going to want to reach out to you and try to work on these things. They simply may rather just sit with this and try to distract themselves and do all of these different things to make sure that they can suppress this down as much as they can, and then maybe even just move on to somebody else if they can't at the end of the day get you back. Because sometimes this avoidant attachment style is so deeply enrooted within them that they don't know the difference, and they can't see how this has contributed to the relationships not working, and they believe that things are always going to just be like this. So they tend to just accept things as they are and not make any attempts to try to reach out to you to work on this. And that's why it is so important that you continue to go no contact and you make sure that you're doing it for yourself, because this is always going to have you win in the end. You are either going to have this person realize the magnitude of this avoidant attachment style, and they may reach out to you to try to see if there's a way that the both of you can work on this, which means them taking accountability and them taking the actions and steps to try to heal from this, and then maybe the both of you guys coming back together and getting back into a relationship, or they simply don't. But at the end of the day, because you went no contact for yourself, you will organically begin to move on and heal from this relationship, which is so important, because you have to really ask yourself, do you want to continue to engage in this type of relationship where you're constantly wondering, is this person ever going to go back to that avoidance cycle? Is this legitimate? This is probably keeping you on edge, and you probably are going to feel that way for a significant amount of time until they can go a consistent amount of time showing you that they've healed from this. And that's something that you have to really sit with yourself and ask. And I know that this is a challenging thing to do, because there's a part of you that's always going to hold on to the potential of what things are and want things to work out, because you do genuinely love this person. You want this relationship to be successful. But at the end of the day, in order for this relationship to be successful, to be healthy, and for you to get your needs met, they have to show up in the relationship. They have to do their part, and their part requires them to work on this avoidant attachment style. Again, we can have some empathy to understand that this was due to them not having their emotional needs met, and that was something that they couldn't control. But now they have the opportunity. They have the opportunity to work on this and to get to a place to where they can be healed from this and actually express to you the love and care and commitment that you deserve, because you were a great partner. But at the end of the day, this is completely on them. You did everything that you possibly could to try to get them to realize it, and it just didn't work. And the best chances of that potentially happening is you going no contact with them and sticking to it, because that is what's hopefully going to wake them up and realizing that this avoidant attachment style needs to be worked on their end if they are ever going to have a healthy relationship. I hope that you did find value in today's video. If you did, please make sure to hit the like button. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.